reminds me of I listened to
We're
this.
live.
I know,
Well,
I see.
this morning.
I saw it. It reminds me of this. I listened to this podcast called The Indoor Kids. They don't do it no more, but it's called The Indoor Kids. And just one day, it's a married couple and they like video game stuff and all that stuff. But one day, the boy just went crazy, and he I wish I could remember what he was singing. He was singing something. He could not stop singing this song. Like, he was like very silly, but he could not. And he's Pakistani, so like, you know, he got this like accent or whatever. But he was like really singing this song like the whole time. He was getting on like she was so mad at him, but he could not. He was like being so silly. Dang, what song was it? It's like a pop song, like
But that's what happens. You get a song stuck in your head. You can't stop singing it.
But that's how I feel about this, John. Like, it's playing in my head. Like, it's like the piano and everything is going in my head, but I can't get it out. And it's like, it's not one of them Johns where if you play it, you know, it satisfies it. No, it's like, it's very catchy. The one thing about like new music, I don't be messing with all of it, but it's like it's a certain pocket of it that I'm like, yo, this is good. And it's a white boy, so I'm like, oh, this is corny. But it's not true. I love white music. That's how we started.
I don't.
I do. I'm you know.
No, I do too. I'm like, go for it. I would never tell anybody though.
I feel like it was like Katy Perry or something. Anyway. All right. Hello. Good evening or morning, whenever you're listening to this. Welcome to DM Therapy. This is myself and Khadijah, and we have started a podcast. We are two friends. We've been friends for a long time, and we always talk. We talk all the time, and we were like, hey, we should record this. I feel like everybody at some time in their friendship says the exact same thing. Hey, we should record. We're so funny. We should record. And we're no different. So now we have a podcast, and you're listening. So it's successful. Congratulations, Khadijah. We did it.
We did it.
We did it. So that's it. That's all I got. Are you starting us off finally this weekend, or should I get a question?
You can give us a question this week, and then I'll have one next time.
Okay, so the question that I've been asking my class, I'm gonna do an count. We should do an jar. The question that I've been asking my students for the last 2 weeks is, do hardships make you stronger? Do hardships make you stronger? What do you think?
I used to think it made you stronger, and I'm gonna say yes, it does. But I think it also makes you. You should probably answer this question because I know you probably will know what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. But like, it makes you stronger, but then it also makes you a certain type of person. Like you mm-hmm. I think sometimes you might, like, you're resilient, but then you also have resentment for certain things that have happened to you. I think, like, I used to think that I was such a strong person, and I am, but mm-hmm. I do a lot of things in survival mode. So mm-hmm. I can't always accept love. I can't always accept certain things. Like, I don't always believe it's true because I'm so busy trying to be strong. I don't allow myself to feel certain type of things. So I don't know what that word is. So mm-hmm. yeah, I think it makes you strong in a way, but mm-hmm. I think, you know, too many hardships, you become, I guess, kind of hard.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a meme that's going around, and it's like, you know, there's a saying that says, God never puts more on you than you can bear. And the meme is like, I wish God would stop putting stuff on me that I can bear. You know,
right?
I
mean, I mean,
it's enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I feel like So I've heard so many answers to this. I even did it, and I want to try to do this a little bit more. You know, they have those little question things you can do or statement things you can do on IG. So I put it up as one of my statements and was trying to get some answers to that as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if anything that you encounter, you run the risk of creating a response to that, right? So if you have a certain trauma or hardship or whatever that is, you end up making a response to that. And you can either, what do you call it? Like iron sharpens iron, or like, what is that called? It either makes you stronger but like you said, it could turn it around and turn into, I don't want to say deficit, but like, or I feel like it, like you said, it could work against you in the long run. Like if you hold on to that thing so too long, it'll turn into a detriment in that way. Like, oh, I have to put up these walls and I have to be hard and strong and these things, but ultimately you're closed off and not, like you said, you don't necessarily have a safe space to trust or to believe or to even dream in kind of the way that people do as they go about quote unquote normal life. So I feel that um, when my students when I ask my students, my mom was like, "Are you going to talk about your students all the time?" Yes, that's all. That's my only point of reference. What I'm supposed to do. When I asked my students, a lot of them gave different answers, but one, he's like a real tough young boy, right? And he was like, "No, you either strong or you not." And just hearing you say that and thinking about him, he's already in that phase where it's like, listen, I am from the streets. When I go outside, I have to be this thing, and I don't know anything else. I don't have time to know anything else. He's like, I think I mentioned it on the last show, but he was like, it's hard. Like, and the point that he was trying to make is that the strength is always in you. Either, it might be latent, and you might not know until you face a thing, but he could not get past the concept that I'm just strong. And then you get into, the definition of what strength is. Like, the reason why we were talking about it, or the reason why he went into his kind of little tirade about it, is because one of the other guys said, I work at Arita's, and somebody poured water ice into the tip jar. And we were talking about professionally, because my classes are about like workforce readiness and how to be a professional and these things. And he was saying that he learned from his hardship, and the hardship was a customer being out of control. So he learned from that thing that he was the professional in that situation, that he shouldn't take that personally, he shouldn't take that seriously. And some of the harder young gentlemen in the class were like, no, ain't no way. Yeah. And they can't really understand the different levels of strength that there are. They only understand it in terms of, you're not going to make me look stupid. You're not going to, chump me. You're not going to put me lower than you. And that's it. You know what I mean? And it was such a hard conversation to have, because I'm always like, feel your feelings. Like, I understand that it's hard for you. At the same time, I want to give them, a different way, a different option to just a different way to kind of see things, at least open up to see things. But you're right. When you have a trauma response to something, it's, I mean, it's difficult to break through it.
And that takes
And
strength too, though. Like
yeah.
to have somebody do something which you think is disrespectful and to not react, to be professional in a situation where you want to do something else, that takes strength too. That takes a lot of strength.
Well, you and I know that, but I'm telling you, this young gentleman, he was like, "No, Mister, ain't no way I'm gonna go and let somebody disrespect me like that." And like really, he was like really serious, and he like other students were like chiming in and like, "No, it's like exactly what you said," and he was like, "No, no," you know, and we eventually got to a point where he understood what we were saying. I'm not going to say that he, ingested it, took it in, but internalized it rather. That's what I was trying to say. But he was able to concede that, in a perfect world, that would be great if you were able to do that. But that's not the world that he lives in,
Like,
And
I hear what you're saying,
yeah,
but
he's like,
I wish somebody would.
yeah, yeah. I mean, nobody's nobody, and I did not send him to Rita's. I did not send him the job that I'm what I was offering him was not Rita's Water Rights, and no customer service. Like, we're gonna put you on a construction site to get some of this some of this anger out, or we're gonna
That
actually.
reminds me of I was talking earlier to somebody about how they did the experiment. They had two plants or flowers
Mm-hmm,
or something like that in the
mm-hmm,
jars, and then you said a whole bunch of negative things to one and a whole bunch
mm-hmm,
of positive things to the other, and then the one that you said the negative things to, that one died. And it's
mm-hmm.
just what it sounds like when you talk about him. It's like, if that's your environment and that's all you know, that's why you have that outlook.
It's so funny because one of the people that responded to the prompt on Instagram, when I said that the students were saying, no, you're either strong or you're not, she responded, one of her responses was, well, where does nurture come in this situation? And that's exactly what we're talking about. I don't know if there is room for nurture. And, where she and I came to agreement was, it's going to be different for every kind of level of every situation, or every circumstance. We were talking about in the last episode that we're afforded some kind of privilege to be able to have these conversations, to kind of think, about these things in a kind of macro sense, where it's like, oh, let's sit here like they used to in Greece, and kind of philosophize about like let's do thought experiments for an hour. But he don't have time for that in his situation right now, in his circumstance. So, and then there was another young man in there, and he was kind of totally on board with, yeah, how do you know that you are strong if you don't have hardships? And they teach you that you have strength. Even if they concede that you have strength in you, you might never have to use it until you come against something that you never experienced before. But you can tell that his experience is way different than the other young man's, and it's heavy. It's heavy what these young guys are kind of going through. In this class in particular, it's a lot of kids that, to be completely honest, they're not doing well in school, you know. Um, so, and they're good guys, it was so cool because I got a email from one of the administrators, and she was like, yo, I never seen such that young man engaged the way that he's engaged when he's in your class. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's my favorite thing to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh and just in general, or as a whole, like just trying to get people to not necessarily see things the way that I see them, but think deeply or expansively. I think that's I could, like I said, I could do that all day. I would love to experience that, like, and so people that's listening, if you want to invite us out to have a talk or something, you know, I would
Can
love to have a
pontificate,
conversation. Yeah,
philosophize.
yeah, just give us a topic, and we'll do this for you guys.
But what do you think about the opposite though? Like if somebody goes through their life and they have a relatively, easy life, are they not strong because they haven't had to experience anything?
Well, I mean, I believe strength is relative, right? So, and just like kind of like I was just saying, it's relative to the situation. We think that, oh, this person's life, I'm gonna use another young kid's slang, but this kid's life is kind of Mickey, right? And
Uh, I don't,
like
I
Mickey
don't know what that
Mouse,
is.
like Mickey Mouse,
Like soft.
soft.
Okay, gotcha.
Uh, but you never know. I think we put, and now I'm like, is that what that means? uh, but we might see people that are like better off than us, like more money or whatever that is, and you're like, dang, that's the life I would love. But you don't know what's going on in that household. Like, you know what I'm saying? What does it take for whoever's earning that money to make that money that they make, what does that do to the relationships in that, in that nucleus? So they might be dealing with abuse, they might be dealing with neglect, they might be dealing with all kinds of things. So just because you got $1 million does not necessarily mean that your life is okay. uh and it's funny, Jim Carrey gave a commencement speech, and he was like, I wish you could all experience being, and I'm paraphrasing, being rich, because so you can see that it's not it, like, it's not the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's real, because if you are the same person, you might be afforded different kind of luxuries or different times or whatever, vacations and things like that, but if you are in the same place mentally, or dealing with all of the problems that come along, more money, more problems. I just made that up.
It's
if
really
if you you know if you are dealing with those things, it's stuff that we can't fathom, but it's still hard. It's still difficult. So we like to look at things in terms of our own experience, right? It's like I had to wear them sneakers for a whole year, like, where another kid might have a different pair of sneakers. Now these sneakers are like $600, like,
right.
But I had my little Converse for, and not the like cute little Chucks, but like I had basketball sneakers because I played basketball when we was in transy, and I had to wear them Jones, you know,
Yeah.
for that year. Like, that was my sneakers that I got. So we think, oh, if you getting new things and things like that, that comparatively you look like you are more successful than me. Like, and I then put things on you that I think comes with that success. Like, that I already am envious of the thing that you have. So in turn, all the things about your life are better than mine. When in actuality, it's not. Like your
And I
like your
mean,
best.
like, not even comparing lives or whatever, just in
Mm-hmm.
general. Because I know, like, a lot of the older people will say that the children now are soft, like they've never been through anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think either you maybe you were traumatized by how your parent, I'm talking about us, our age group,
Mm-hmm.
either you didn't like the way your parent raised you, you were traumatized, or and so now you're going to do the complete opposite, or you somehow end up doing the same thing that your parents did to you, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the children are a result of all of that. So the way your mom's mom raised her, and then the way,
Mm-hmm.
your mom raised you, and then you raised your child this way, and then we have social media and all that,
Yeah.
that comes into play that causes them to be that way. um I don't know, I just feel like a lot of kids now just seem depressed, sad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even, it's almost like depression is aesthetic in a way, like, oh, I'm depressed, oh, I'm sad, like, and like I hear even my children talk about, I'm gonna kill myself in a joking way. They say it, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm so depressed, like I was about to kill myself yesterday. Like, it don't work like that, boo. Like, it's not that. So I don't
But
know what it is.
so you have young people, in your vicinity, in your household, and things like that. What kind of struggles do they go through?
I don't know. I
Like
don't think they're gonna do anything. I'm one
none.
of them parents. Like,
I'm about to
I'm
say
one of
you're
them
one of
parents. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, child? Do you know what
yeah,
I went through growing up? I'm that
yeah,
person. I'm
yeah.
the I wore the same things all year person. What are you
Mm-hmm.
complaining about? But it's not even
Right.
about. I mean, as I mature my parenting, I realized, because I was one of the parents who, if you like Blue's Clues, I'm buying all the Blue's Clues off the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also the same parent that was working on Christmas because I wanted to get the money.
Right.
And then, my kids were like, but we didn't have you. And I'm like,
Right.
that sounds good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it sounds sweet, but you're also the same kid who said they have the $600 sneakers. Well, you can't have both. Like, I have to
Right.
be able to go get the money for the things that you're asking for. Like my kids never asked for experiences. Like, they never
Mm-hmm.
asked to, you always ask for things. So I tried to get it, but that is the result of how I was raised. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always got the things that I wanted, but I didn't necessarily have my parents all the time. So I kind of thought, like, if I'm doing the things, then you should be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now as
Yeah.
an adult, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with them. Excuse my like I don't know what's up with them now. Like, all my older three, they're all going through something. I have no idea
Mm-hmm.
what, and they can't even explain it to me when I ask.
Well, I mean, that's exactly, and it's funny. I mean, but that's exactly what I was saying. Like, they experience, just because they didn't have to, walk 5 miles in the snow, to school, doesn't mean that they weren't experienced. And the thing about kids is that they cannot articulate under a pile of Blues Clues the joy of a pile of blues. I can't say that. Blues Clues toys that, oh, can you play Blues Clues with me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe now, as we get further and further into the conversation, because the thing that happens, and this, like, we're talking about a bunch of different things, but the thing that happens is young people now have way more language than we had then, and they're able to articulate a lot of, at least, the sadness and things. We we had it, but we expressed it in different ways. I think, like, when we were younger, there were like goth kids and emo kids, and that was the beginning of what this is. Like, like, what's my man? What's the rapper guy from here? I just want to rock. What's the boy name?
Uzi.
Uzi, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
they love him, because that's, I mean, but all he is to me is he's like an avatar for goth kids, like, for, of today. He's got the makeup on, and he's got all the, like, the weird clothes and stuff like that. And that's how they are. I've dealt with a lot of teens, and they're almost all, to me, in that same realm. I mean, not all of them, but they're in there. So I feel like even though not you, but they have a lot of things. The thing that they're missing is the experience. And I do believe you when you say, like, oh, I wanted to make sure that my children didn't want for anything, but we don't come from people that understood that experience was part of that anyway. Like, we skipped, I think, a part of it, of this, like, child rearing. I don't know if that's like PC anymore. But we skipped a part of that where it used to be, do what I say. And and not as I do, like, and you're gonna be in this place and you're gonna do this thing that I say. And if you don't, then you're being bad, to skipped all the way to almost like the kid is even with the parent, and I'm not going to do anything you say if I don't feel it in my heart,
Yes.
And somewhere in between there was supposed to be a conversation. It didn't happen gradually. It's like how it's 80 degrees today and it was like 40 degrees like 3 days ago.
Yeah, it was like you went from beating your kid for not listening to you going to jail. So it's like, I can't. It's like, I don't know how to discipline the child.
Once they found out that number, they just was like, I'm gonna call the people on you, and then that was it. And that's how fast. That's the thing. That's how fast change happens, right? But yeah, there should have been some kind of something happening in the middle, and it reminds me of, I used to deal with preschoolers, right? So for a very, very long time, and I would see them copying their parents, who were also young people, 20, 22 years old. To me, like, now if I look at a 22-year-old right now, I'm like, oh, that's a kid, So imagine a 22-year-old person with a 6-year-old kid, and the lessons kind of got lost in the middle, where you're supposed to be. So I would see these like 6-year-old kids, and I'm thinking of one in particular, but he used to always be like limping, right? And I'm like, why are you limping? You 6 years old. There's no reason why you should be limping. I know he wasn't getting like mistreated or anything, but he was emulating his mom, who, might limp or might, like, we get up, you're like, my back or something like that. And he started taking on those mannerisms and almost became, like I said, very equal to adult. But then the messed up part is the mom then will be like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong with your back? What's wrong with your leg? Like, and in turn, he'd be like, oh, it hurts. Like, and it didn't hurt. Like, he understood, he figured out how to get what you call negative attention from that. And then, I had this kid last summer, and he would, like, oh my goodness, he would tell his mom so many things was happening at this summer program. He was like, yeah, they call me ugly, they call me like dark skin, and they call me all this stuff. And like, I would sit with this kid all day and nobody really even talked to him, or he was like the life of the party. But then he would go home and his mom would be like, his mom would call me crying, like, what are they doing to my son? I was like, nothing is happening to your child during the day, But, and I think that's another thing, we kind of underestimate how smart they are, and how crafty they are. Now, this is the anti kid podcast. No, but it's something that's being missed And I think you hit the nail on the head, where it's just like, we come from very little, and then we want to give them everything, but we are not also giving them. It's so funny because I can remember some birthdays, I can remember some Christmases and things like that, but what I really remember is my dad playing catch with us, like getting us gloves, and playing catch, taking us out to Fairmount and actually playing catch with us, or all the times we went to the beach, all the times we went down to our family reunion, and we were just in the car. We was out. We were going places, and then that's what I do now. Like, I mean, I get in my car, I go somewhere, and that's the thing. And you probably wouldn't be surprised, but I talk to so many kids. I in a year I see maybe 200 kids, right? And at least half of them, and it's probably way more than that, usually say, I don't go outside. And it's violent out there, that's fine. But I don't know that if it wasn't violent, that they would still, because there's so many things to kind of keep you in the house and entertained in the house, that I don't know if they even value being out there and being outside anymore. Let me sit up, because this is the point of the podcast when I get real comfortable, and I gotta turn up my levels, because it's like, where did he go? Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if we're solving anything in this moment, but it's like,
but it's true though. And then like, you have to learn it. Like, that's not something that you just automatically know as a parent. Like, you kind of like, I really truly believe like if you think about like your parents, or like if you're growing up, Jim Crow laws and all that kind of stuff, you had to be parented a certain way. Like, I have to be like this with you, because you go outside, you could be killed just for the color of your skin, or if you look at somebody the wrong way. So I have to make sure how to be, so that you can survive. Then your parent, that's how they were parented. So now they're either trying not to be that way with you, but all they know is discipline through this, how you beat your kid or whatever. And then like some of my friends, we started, our older kids, you got to beat, and the younger kids is like, we're going to try to gentle parent. And it's, and now it's, I was talking to a girl on Facebook. Well, I really wasn't. She just commented. She's a young girl, and she has one child. And I'm not saying if you don't have a child, if you have one child, you can't really tell somebody. But it's kind of like, if you haven't actually experienced a little person, 100% of the time, it's a little bit different. Okay. And I was saying about how it was a video about an autistic adult, and how she said something crazy to her mom, and her mom slapped her. Okay. And she was saying how her mom raised her the same as all the other cousins. Like, she was no different. She got punished the same. She got to do all the same things, because she wanted her to know that, you can't be like this, out in the world. Yeah. And the girl commented basically like, I've said something about like popping, my twins or whatever. And she was like, so you want to teach them to not do that by violence. I'm sorry, this is the video. It was a white lady, and the little girl was hitting her mom. And her mom said, I'm going to remove myself from you. And then she went to explain and was like, the reason why this works is because she wants to be near me. So because she wants to be near me, I'm going to remove myself from her. Therefore, she'll stop hitting because she wants to be near me. And I said, that works if you're the mom. But what if you're at school and the little boy don't care about being next to you? Like, you know what I'm saying? She's going to keep hitting. I said, you have to teach your child at some point that hitting is not okay. I'm not saying get a belt and beat your kid. But I think that kind of worked when the grandparents said, if they hit you, you pop them back. If they bite you, I'm not saying bite your child till the skin come off, but just a little, so you can know what that feels like. I said the same way, like, if your child touches a hot stove, they know not to touch that damn stove again. It's hot. I'm not saying beat your child, and she just wanted to, because violence, and you're teaching your child violence. I'm like, first of all, the child's violent to me, so they already know violence. I didn't teach the kid violence because they already know it. But it's just a lot of, and I'm not trying to knock her at all, but it's a lot of parents like that, and then that child is going to grow up and go to school with kids like maybe who you're teaching, who have a completely different reality, and you're going to try that and now your child's not prepared for the world. So you're trying to prepare your child to be able to survive in the world as you see it. That's what I was saying about the whole Jim Crow thing. If your mom sees that if you go out here and do X, Y, and Z, you're going to do this to make sure your child is cool. If you see the world as rainbow and gumdrops, you're going to be like, no, I'm going to remove myself. And she's going to come across a girl who's has a different life.
So there's so many things in there, but just to that, I wonder if the first thing it makes me think of is some people are in a situation to be able to remove themselves from a child because they have a big old house, or they have a nanny, or they have a situation where they can, like you said, they can move away from a child. When I taught preschool, and I taught preschool for for children that have emotional and behavioral diagnoses, autism, all kinds of things. What we had were quote unquote safe spaces, so it's like, all right, the young person is acting out, as it were. And the crazy thing is, it is a lot of times for attention, and it's because they can't articulate the thing that they're really feeling. So it's so difficult because this takes like monk level patience and to do. But it's like what you're taught to do is same thing, like not remove yourself from the child, but remove the child from the situation. So we, like, same thing though, we were afforded, I had two other people in my room, right? So it was like, all right, well, you could take little Johnny over to the the comfy corner and let him scream his
Not
little
the
heart
comfy
out.
corner.
I don't know, it's called something silly, like I can't think of what it was called, like because it was like pillows and like stuffed animals and things like that.
But would you
Where
do that with the child who didn't have, those, disorders, or, other side, like, what is it called? A neurotypical child. Would you still handle it the same way? Go in a comfy corner?
Yeah, because here's the thing, and it's weird because I have to come at, I don't have kids, right? So I have to come at it from a teaching perspective, like, you know what I'm saying? So I have to use my education and experience to kind of put myself in that scenario. And all of the kids did not have diagnoses. Like, some of them, um their parents, it was free, like, you know what I'm saying? So I had one kid, I lied to you not, I had one kid that was about to graduate from the program and said, my mom said I don't have to be crazy no more because I'm going to first grade.
You know
So
what?
I mean, listen, people know how to pimp the system, like,
But
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
what I'm
So,
saying. Just that right there is the parents. Like, that kid is
so,
probably in his
so this is what
mind
I
like,
mean, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I don't know if violence is natural or learned. Like, I know if you are trying to get, so like the big thing that we learn, I don't know, have you ever seen Miracle Worker, the Helen Keller story? Um so that's what teachers are taught, like, when the first kind of foray into like autism and neurodivergence is like, oh, you got to watch the Miracle Worker because this person, supposedly, the story goes, is that this person was tasked to to be like Helen Keller's nanny or whatever it is, and Helen Keller was a piece of work, and she's like throwing food at her and this and that thing. And this is an old black and white movie, so it's old. I don't know how old it is, but I'm gonna at least put it at the 40s or 50s. And what you'll see throughout the movie is that she stood her ground. The teacher stood her ground and allowed Helen Keller to act out and be all the things, until she realized that, oh, none of that stuff is flying. And for me, I'm a very patient person, so in certain ways, in certain things, some things is just like immediately no.
There's
but
no apostrophe
yeah,
immediately.
it's just like, why would you do that? I want to be on Bumble. I'm like, what is this sentence? But for me, with kids, and I was taught to be, I have the luxury too of being a teacher, so you can go home, like what I'm saying. Ultimately, so yeah, we get beat up, a lot in those situations, and a lot of it was for me, and I think I was very successful in that way. A lot of it for me was like, I'm thinking of this one time, because they would always call me, because this is where it gets messed up though, is because they'd be like, oh, you a man, they're gonna listen to a man better, and and that kind of takes away from my skill set, so they would always call me when they wanted me to be the enforcer, which is not great in a job like that, because then the parents like, what did you do to my kid,
Right.
But they would call me to be the enforcer, and like it would always be funny when a new person got the story of, oh, just call Mr. O if something go crazy. Because I would go in there and I would not be an enforcer. I would be a person who had, 20 years of experience with kids, with educating little people. So it reminds me of this this one time where this kid, he was just screaming like to the top of his lungs, ah! And I go up, like I called Miss O, and I went up there, and he was just sitting in a chair, and I'm telling you, they're smart, man. They're like, he's just like, ah, and if everybody that was there, it was like 6 people sitting there watching them have a whole fit. And I can even imagine in this moment, like if everybody just turned around, like he would try to get it amped up, he would ramp it up a little bit, but if everybody just turned around, he would understand that he didn't have an audience, and either get tuckered out by his own, his own actions, or maybe to the point where he hurt himself, like, or like I said, get tired of like kind of being crazy. But you have to have the patience to say, listen, you can spit and throw, and like spit was usually the place where people drew the line. But you can throw anything you want to throw and do anything you want to do, but you're not going to get that. And here we go again with that negative attention. You're not going to get that kind of attention. So I'll go up to this situation, and he's like, ah, and I'm like, yo, you are mad, you are mad, and angry. I would say angry. I would always say, because the kid would say, I'm mad. I'm like, dogs go mad. That's one of my older teaching partners would say, people get angry, dogs go mad. And so I started adopting that, and crying's good for the soul. Those are some of my
to a
favorite
4-year-old,
things.
crying
Yeah.
is good for the soul, young man.
Some of my favorite things to say to kids.
I think fluffy corners and all that kind of stuff make kids soft.
See,
you make them fluffy and soft, and then they like, oh my no, let me go in the corner. It's no fluffy corners in the real world. Especially if you black, especially if you a black little boy. Ain't nobody gonna be trying to give you no fluffy
But this is the issue though,
If you hit
because
somebody, they gonna knock your ass out.
well, that's a different thing than trying to quell somebody's anger. And guess what? Just like you're saying, it's because I agree with the last part that if you step to the wrong person, they'll show you that you made a bad decision. But it's not up to you in this moment to do that because you are not a evil force in that person's life, and you might mess around and become that in turn. It's not. I don't know how to say this. Oh, excuse me. It is not. It's to me. It is the parent or the educator's job to show the young person how to cope with the thing that is happening internally inside of them. Because if you, it's just like I was, we were having a conversation at my work, and they were talking about how they're doing this whole kind of revamp thing in the Philadelphia school district, and basically I think people think like, oh, if you throw money at this school, then they'll get better. It's just like same thing with like I was talking about reparations today in one of my classes. Like they think, oh, if you throw money at a thing, it'll just get better. No, it doesn't mean anything if you do not change the culture. So if you change the culture of the school or of the people or of the student, then that's when you work around because a child throwing a chair because they're angry and a child stepping to the wrong person are two different things, except for the fact that if you react every time a child throws a chair, they might have a false sense of their own strength and will then behave as though they're bigger than what they are. If you teach a child to control or understand what's happening to them. And I will say, I did benefit. I'm not going to say like I wasn't. I did benefit from being a big, strong man, you know, because because when I couldn't do what I'm saying, they also was like, you know, oh, and even when I go into my sessions now, a lot of men ain't talking to these young dudes, like or they're all saying the same thing that they say. So it's not like, oh, I'm getting a different thing from somebody that I respect. But as far as the kids are concerned, uh, yeah, I feel like I feel like that's different. You're not. I don't think you're teaching them anything about the world if they're having a episode and can't really or only have these tools because a lot of the times, and just like you were saying before, that negative attention thing is a big deal. And it's like when I would have my classrooms, I kind of miss it a little bit now because you would hear all down the halls, Johnny, don't do this. Johnny, get off that wall. And I never raised my voice. Like I'm speaking louder now than I would speak in my classroom. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's disarming because when they're home, everybody's probably yelling. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody. So I'm about to bang on the table, but I feel like it'll mess up the mic. I need to bang and, scream and shout in a chaotic household. Like, you know what I mean? Where I feel I can't talk, I can't articulate myself, and I feel like I need to be seen. Um, Yeah, I just don't think they're the same thing. Like I don't think Johnny having a fit because he couldn't get play with the toy that he wanted to play with is the same as, oh, white people don't don't treat black people well in this country. I don't think it's the same thing, and I think it's kind of I don't think you should lump those things together because it's not the same. Like you could have that talk with them about, oh, you can't step with somebody, or you can even have a conversation about strength to kind of tie it all in. That okay, that you could tie it all in, but no, I don't. I just lost my whole train of thought. But
If you had a
you
conversation about strength to tie to
about yeah, you can have okay. Pick up. You can have a conversation about strength and resiliency and moving in a certain way, but also have a conversation. And this is the middle part that I was saying. Like, yeah, just whooping a kid. Like back in the day, like my parents' used to just beat them because they stepped out of line. Mm-hmm. Now there's no whoopings, but you're also not you're not talking to them at all. Right. So there's a whole spectrum of stuff that's supposed to happen in between those two things. And I think if we took the time